Okay, well, let's not waste any more time. Why don't we,
Yeah, I don't see any hands.
So, Lori, I'll go ahead and say that we should just proceed in English only, and after the fact, we can have two versions, one translated and one in the original English. We'll distribute an apology, and we can offer any one-on-ones for anybody that needs interpretation after the fact for Q&A.
thank you, Joe. Um, that sounds great. All right, Michael, are you ready?
I am.
All right, let's get started.
So good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, July the 30th, 2026, and I apologize because the date on your screen is showing June 23rd, 2026. We are not in a time warp. And the time is approximately 6:30 p.m. My name is Michael Paylor. I am the designee at this meeting or hearing for the Montgomery County Department of Transportation. Here with me this evening to conduct this public hearing are Mr. Joe Mogus, the Chief of Montgomery County DOT's or MCDOT's Division of Transportation Engineering, and Mr. Robert Gonzalez, Sidewalk Section Chief and Manager of the Sidewalk Program. Also in attendance are Mr. Juan Barrios, Field Supervisor, Mr. Khurshid KD Bilgrami, Capital Projects Manager, Daniel Hagos Camara, construction representative, and Ms. Lori Main, planning specialist, all with the sidewalk program. Mr. Gonzalez will provide information and details regarding the proposed project. Also in attendance is Mrs. Patricia Willanitz and our Spanish translator, and again, apologizing to follow up on our inability to do the Spanish translation. And as Mr. Mogus mentioned before I began my presentation in earnest, there will be an opportunity for those who need Spanish translation. The meeting will go on or the hearing will go on as planned. We'll translate it and disseminate that information to those who are in need of that. So thank you again for bearing with our technical difficulties. It seems like we always have them, and as part of my monologue, I always say, please bear with me if we have technical difficulties. We've already experienced them. We thank you for your patience. And we recognize and want to announce again that tonight's hearing is being recorded, and links to the recording and tonight's presentation will be posted on the Sidewalk Program website by 5 p.m. tomorrow. A link and a QR code to the Sidewalk Program website will be provided on your screen throughout tonight's public hearing. You may also notice that your video camera is turned off by default this evening. To reduce the bandwidth of the meeting and maximize technical efficiency, we request that you do not turn on your video camera. Likewise, microphones have been muted. Once the testimony portion of this hearing begins, those who have signed up to testify will be called on and asked to unmute when it is their turn to speak. Once you're invited to unmute, you may unmute yourself by clicking the microphone icon at the bottom left of your screen. If you have not signed up in advance to testify but wish to do so, please raise your hand by clicking on the react icon at the bottom of your screen and then clicking raise hand. If you're joining us via telephone only, you may raise your hand by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad and *6 to unmute yourself once invited to unmute. Please wait until the testimony portion of this hearing to raise your hand. You may raise your hand at any time during that testimony portion. We will call on you to provide your oral testimony and unmute your microphone when it is your turn to speak. Written testimony and comments may also be submitted and will be considered with the same weight as oral testimony. If time allows following the testimony portion of this hearing, we will hold a question and answer session. You may raise your hand to ask a question, or you're welcome to type your question in the chat box at any time throughout tonight's hearing. The chat box icon is located at the bottom of your screen. Tonight's hearing is being held pursuant to Section 4953 of the Montgomery County Code. The purpose of the public hearing is to obtain testimony regarding potential projects to assist, or regarding this potential project to assist in determining if the project is in the best interest of the public, and whether the public should be authorized, whether the project should be authorized for construction in its entirety or any portion thereof. This forum allows you to provide testimony either in support of or in opposition to the project. Public comment should be focused entirely on the project, which is the topic of discussion. All interested persons are entitled to be heard at this hearing. However, the testimony portion of this hearing is not a forum for dialogue, questions and answers, or cross-examination. Please direct your remarks to the specific project that is the subject of this hearing. If comments stray into areas unrelated to this project, I will ask that you refocus your comments to the subject project. Following the conclusion of this public hearing, the public record will remain open for 4 weeks to allow any person who is unable to attend this hearing an opportunity to have their written testimony and comments included in the public record and be fully considered. The official closing date by which all comments and testimonies must be received is Monday, August 31st, 2026 at 5:00 p.m. Submissions may be emailed or submitted via the online testimony form linked to the project website and must be received by the close of the hearing record. Please be sure to provide your name and property address on your submission. Written submissions will be considered with the same weight as oral testimony. These submissions should be sent to Ms. Main or submitted via the online testimony form. Ms. Main's email address, along with the link and QR code to the project website, are displayed on your screen. After the hearing is concluded and the record is officially closed, I, as the hearing officer, will review and weigh all the information submitted into the public record and make a recommendation to the Director of the Department of Transportation, Mr. Christopher Conklin, for his final decision as to whether the project has been shown to be in the best public interest and whether to authorize the project as proposed or any portions thereof. And now, to discuss the Purple Line BiPPA Sidewalk proposal for the Manchester Place Station, I give you Mr. Robert Gonzalez.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Messrs. Paler, Mogus, Barrios, and Camara, Miss Main, ladies and gentlemen. The subject of this evening's public hearing is to consider the proposal to construct 5-foot wide sidewalks along the following roadways existing within a quarter or half mile of the Manchester Place Purple Line Station. The west side of Saybrook Avenue from Melbourne Avenue to Hamilton Avenue, the west side of Wire Avenue from Melbourne Avenue to Revere Place, the north side of Melbourne Avenue from 121 Melbourne Avenue to Flower Avenue, the west side of Providence Avenue from Melbourne Avenue to 9018 Providence Avenue, the north side of Oldham Road from Louder Terrace to Providence Avenue, the north side of East Schuler Road from Eaton Road to Flower Avenue, the east side of Eaton Road from East Wayne Avenue to East Schuler Road, the east side of Eaton Road from East Schuler Road to Melbourne Avenue, the east side of Guerin Road from Manchester Road to Hartwell Road, the west side of Reading Road from Plymouth Street to Manchester Road, the east side of Bradford Road from Schiller Road to Wayne Avenue, the west side of Plymouth Street from 8710 to 8802 Plymouth Street. This segment is shown in red because it is affected by the Long Branch Station's construction. Hold on for a second. And the south side of Plymouth Street from Reading Road, 8809 Plymouth Street. All right, I got a note here. Okay. All right, so we're on display A1. Display A1 is an aerial project vicinity-based map oriented to the north, showing a portion of the proposed sidewalks in the Manchester Place community along Wire Avenue, Saybrook Avenue, Melbourne Avenue, Providence Avenue, Oldham Road, Eaton Road, East Schuler Avenue, pronounced Schuyler, East Wayne Avenue, and Sudbury Road. The new sidewalks, if approved, will provide a safe, separated space for pedestrian foot travel to the new Manchester Place Purple Line Station and area attractions including the Highland Elementary School, the Oakview Elementary School, the Long Branch Library, Sligo Cabin Neighborhood Park, Seven Oaks Neighborhood Park, and Upper Long Branch Neighborhood Park, the shops and amenities along Flower Avenue, the existing network of sidewalks and public transportation stops. All of the proposed sidewalks in Manchester Place total 9,446 linear feet. Display 2. Display 2 is an aerial project vicinity base map oriented to the north, showing the remaining proposed sidewalks in the Manchester Place community, including those on Plymouth Street, Reading Street, and Garin Road. The new sidewalks, if approved, will provide a safe separated space for pedestrians, foot travel to the new Manchester Place Purple Line station and area attractions as previously discussed. Again, all sidewalks proposed under the Purple Line BiPPA Sidewalk proposed for the Manchester Place station total 9,446 linear feet. Display B1. To ensure everyone can follow along, I want to share an index for each base map area. Please note the progression from 1 to 12. Each numbered section corresponds to a portion of the engineered concept plans in the displays to follow. If you have a particular area of concern or personal relevance, please note it as we go along so that we engage in the question and answer session following tonight's testimony portion. We can easily return to the relevant slide. Display B2. Display B2 is a base map 2 within an index progression from 13 to 18. Again, if you have a particular area of concern or personal relevance, please note it as we go along so that we engage in the question and answer session following tonight's testimony portion. We can easily return to that relevant slide. Display C. Display C is the engineered concept plan for section 1 of base map 1. Here's the proposed sidewalk on Oldham Road, spanning Lauer Terrace to Providence Avenue, aligned at the back of the curb without buffering green spaces, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. Please always be wary of the north arrow. This would be the most egregious example with the north completely upside down. The proposed sidewalk spans the north side of Oldham Road and the west side of Providence Avenue. This section of sidewalk calls for a few tree and bush removals. On April 24, 2024, the Department of Justice updated the regulations for Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. The final rule has specified requirements to ensure that web content is accessible to people with disabilities. When websites are not accessible, they can create barriers for people with disabilities. For example, individuals who are blind may use a screen reader to deliver visual information on a website or mobile app as speech. If the website does not include text, including the image, sometimes called alternative text, individuals who are blind and use screen readers may have no way of knowing what's on the image because a screen reader cannot read an image. That alternative text is what you'll find on the right side of each segment's concept plans. Display D, please. Display D is the engineered concept plan for base map 1, segment 2. The lower left portion of this slide follows along display C. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the west side of Providence Avenue, northerly beyond Wire Avenue. Again, the sidewalk is aligned along the back of the curb with no buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of a few trees, a few bushes, and a few fences that are currently placed in the public right-of-way. Display E. Lori, do you have the display E? Lori, you're trying to pull up display E. There we go. We're on E as an elephant. Lori, can you go to E?
Just a minute, Bobby, because I know there have been some hands that are raised, and I also observed that in the previous version, the slides were not matching the descriptions that you were providing. And so I think there's some kind of reset going on. So sit tight for a sec.
Okay.
And given that confusion, I'm almost thinking that we need to go back through these because the descriptions that you were reading and the slides that were being presented were not aligned.
I
So
gotcha.
do you think can you step back into slide or excuse me, display A1 and
Sure.
let me make sure that A1 is aligned with the yes. And so Bobby, if you don't mind, I know it's going to take a little bit more time, but I think for the purposes of eliminating the confusion that might have been created by the slide offsets, can you go back through and start at display A1?
No
For
problem.
thank you, sir.
I got it. Display A1 is an aerial project vicinity map, base map oriented to the north, showing a portion of the proposed sidewalk in the Manchester Place community along Wire Avenue, Saybrook Avenue, Melbourne Avenue, Providence Avenue, Oldham Road, Eaton Road, East Schuler Avenue, pronounced Schuyler, East Wayne Avenue, and Sudbury Road. The new sidewalks, if approved, will provide a safe, separated space for pedestrian foot travel to the new Manchester Place Purple Line station and area attractions including the Highland Elementary School, the Oakview Elementary School, the Long Branch Library, Sligo Cabin Neighborhood Park, Seven Oaks Neighborhood Park, the Upper Long Branch Neighborhood Park, the shops and amenities along Flower Avenue, the existing network of sidewalks and public transportation stops, all of the proposed sidewalks in the Manchester Place total 9,446 linear feet. Display A2. Display A2 is an aerial project vicinity base map oriented to the north, showing the remaining proposed sidewalks in the Manchester Place community, including those on Plymouth Street, Reading Street, and Garin Road. The new sidewalks, if approved, will provide a safe, separated space for pedestrian foot travel to the new Manchester Place Purple Line station and area attractions as previously discussed. Again, all sidewalks proposed under the Purple Line BiPPA sidewalk proposal for the Manchester station total 9,446 linear feet. Display B1. To ensure everyone can follow along, I want to share an index for each base map area. Please note the progression from 1 to 12. Each numbered section corresponds to portions of the engineered concept plans in the displays to follow. If you have a particular area of concern or personal relevance, please note it as we go along so that when we engage in the question and answer session following tonight's testimony portion, we can easily return to the relevant slide. B2, please. Display B2 is a base map 2 with an index progressing from 13 to 18. Again, if you have a particular area of concern or personal relevance, please note it as we go along so that we can engage in the question and answer session following tonight's testimony portion. We can easily return to the relevant slide. Display C. Display C is the engineered concept plan for section 1 of base map 1. Here's the proposed sidewalk on Oldham Road spanning Lauer Terrace to Providence Avenue, aligned at the back of the curb without buffering green spaces, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. Please always be wary of the north arrow. This would be the most egregious example with the north completely upside down. The proposed sidewalk spans from the north side of Oldham Road and the west side of Providence Avenue. This section of sidewalk calls for a few tree and bush removals. On April 24, 2024, the Department of Justice updated its regulations for Title II of the American Disabilities Act, ADA. The final rule was specified requirements to ensure that web content is accessible to people with disabilities. When websites are not accessible, they can create barriers for people with disabilities. For example, the individuals who are blind may use a screen reader to deliver visual information on a website or mobile app as speech. If the website does not include text describing the image, sometimes called alternative text, individuals who are blind and use screen readers may have no way of knowing what's in the image because a screen reader cannot read an image. The alternative text is what you'll find on the right side of each segment's concept plans. Display D. Display D is an engineered concept plan for Base 1, Segment 2. The lower left portion of this slide follows along from Display C. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the west side of Providence Avenue northerly beyond Wire Avenue. Again, the sidewalk is aligned along the back of the curb with no buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of a few trees, few bushes, and a few fences that are currently placed in the public right-of-way. Display E. Display E is the upper right portion of this slide follows along from Display D. Unfortunately, we find again the north arrow completely upside down. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the west side of Providence Avenue, northerly to Melbourne Avenue. You'll also find the proposed sidewalk along the north side of Melbourne Avenue from west of Providence Avenue, easterly towards Melbourne Avenue. The proposed sidewalks will be aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles and fire hydrants. Display E. Oops, I'm sorry, F. We're in the Wire Avenue spanning Revere Place to southerly beyond Hamilton Avenue. The north arrow is described towards the right. The proposed sidewalk spans the west side of Wire Avenue and is aligned along the back of the curb with no buffering green space. Display G. We're now at Saybrook Avenue from Hamilton Avenue, southerly towards Melbourne Avenue. The north arrow is directed towards the right. The proposed sidewalk plans spans the west side of Saybrook Avenue. The darker gray sidewalk segments indicate where flexible pavement will be installed to preserve trees and protect tree roots. This alternative material is porous and safe to install on tree roots and even though exposed. These sections of sidewalk calls for the removal of a few trees and bushes. Display H. We're now at Melbourne Avenue spanning beyond Saybrook Avenue and Wire Avenue. Unfortunately, we again find the north arrow completely upside down. The proposed sidewalk spans the north side of Melbourne Avenue and the west side of both Wire Avenue and Saybrook Avenue, and is aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where needed to avoid utility poles. The darker gray sidewalk segments indicated indicates where flexible pavement will be used to preserve trees. These sections of sidewalks call for removal of a few trees, few hedges, and a fence that is currently placed in the public right-of-way. Display I. The left portion of this slide follows along from display H. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the north side of Melbourne Avenue, easterly to Flower Avenue, and the east side of Eaton Road up to Melbourne Avenue. The proposed sidewalks are aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles or a storm drain top. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of a few hedges. Display J. We're now at Eaton Road from south of Melbourne Avenue towards Oldham Road and beyond. The north arrow points to the right. The proposed sidewalk spans the east side of Eaton Road and the north side of Oldham Road without buffering green spaces, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. The darker gray segments indicate where flexible pavement will be installed to preserve trees. This section of sidewalk calls for the removal of few trees, bushes, and hedges. Display K. The right portion of the slide follows along from display J. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the east side of Eaton Road, southerly to the East Schuler Road and beyond, as well as the north side of East Schuler Road. The proposed sidewalks are aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles and a fire hydrant, and the darker gray sidewalk segments reflect where flexible pavement will be installed to preserve trees. The sections of sidewalk require the removal of one tree. Display L. The right portion of this slide follows along from display K. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the east side of Eaton Road, southerly to East Wayne Avenue. The proposed sidewalk is now aligned at the back of the curb, without a buffering green space except where necessary to avoid utility poles or a right-of-way tree. The darker gray sidewalk segments indicate where flexible pavement will be installed to preserve trees. This section of the sidewalk calls for removal of a few trees, a bush, and reconstructing a set of stairs. Slide M. The left portion of this slide follows along from display L. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the north side of East Schuler Road, easterly to Flower Avenue, and the east side of Bradford Road. The sidewalks are now aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles and a fire hydrant. The darker gray sidewalk segments indicate where flexible pavement will be used to preserve a right-of-way tree. Display N. The right portion of this slide follows along from display M. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the east side of Bradford Road, southerly to the east to East Wayne Avenue. The sidewalks are now aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of a few trees, a few hedges, and the reconstruction of a set of stairs. Display O. We're now at Plymouth Street from Flower Avenue westerly towards Bradford Road and beyond. The proposed sidewalk spans the south side of Plymouth Street and the west side of Reading Avenue. The proposed sidewalks are now aligned at the back of the curbs. This section of sidewalk calls for the removal of trees, hedges, and a fence that is currently placed in the public right-of-way. The display P. The right portion of this slide follows along display O. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the west side of Reading Road, aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. The darker gray sections of sidewalk indicate where flexible pavement will be installed to preserve trees. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of a rock line, a few bushes, and the fence that is currently placed in the public right-of-way. Display Q. The right portion of this slide follows along from display P. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the west side of Reading Road, aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where needed to avoid utility poles. The darker gray sidewalk segments indicate where flexible pavement will be used to preserve trees. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of a fence that is currently placed in the public right-of-way. Display R. The right portion of the slide follows along from display Q. The proposed sidewalk continues to span the west side of Reading Road, aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space, except where necessary to avoid utility poles. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of hedges, bushes, and a couple of fences are currently placed in the public right-of-way. Display S. We're now at Guerin Road from Hartwell Road southerly towards Manchester Road. The proposed sidewalk spans from the east side of Guerin Road, aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space. New curbing will also be installed on both sides of Guerin Road in collaboration with the Drainage Assistance Program. These sections of sidewalk call for the removal of a few trees, a few bushes, the reconstruction of a set of stairs, and the removal of a small retaining wall. Display T. The right portion of this slide follows along from display S. The proposed sidewalk spans from the east side of Guerin Road southerly to Manchester Road, aligned at the back of the curb without a buffering green space. New curbing will also be installed on both sides of Guerin Road in collaboration with the Drainage Assistance Program. These sections of sidewalk require relocating planters, removing a fence currently in the public right-of-way, and reconstructing a set of stairs. Justification. Montgomery County DOT evaluates requests for pedestrian facilities based on their ability to serve public use and enhance public safety. The main goal of installing sidewalks is to remove pedestrians from the path of vehicular traffic and create a safe separation between pedestrians and the roadway and vehicles. Sidewalk installation likewise is a key component of the county's climate action plan, providing infrastructure that allows pedestrians to walk safely, separated from traffic, to short distance destinations and to public transportation for longer trips. The new sidewalks in the Long Branch community will remove pedestrians, and Manchester community will remove pedestrians and people with disabilities from the roadway and from the oncoming vehicular traffic. The sidewalks will establish safer access to the numerous aforementioned pedestrian generators, as well as all the areas of the community. Pedestrian safety will be improved for the entire community. Tree preservation. A number of right-of-way trees previously slated for removal would be preserved by eliminating or enlarging the green space and installing the sidewalk using a flexible pavement that can be laid over the tree roots, even those exposed. Please see the revised engineering concept plans on the project website. If your tree is slated for removal and you would like to explore preserving it, please contact Ms. Main. Her contact information will be shared again later in the presentation. For each right-of-way tree removed, 3 trees will be planted. Following the installations, if approved, the county arborist will visit each property from which a right-of-way tree was removed to discuss the available species and their placement in the right-of-way adjacent to your property. Available placement species can be viewed on the tree maintenance website. You may also request the county plant a shade tree on your private property via the Tree Montgomery website. For your convenience, we have provided the links and QR codes to the project website, tree maintenance website, and the Tree Montgomery website. Costs and assessments. The estimated cost for installing the Manchester Place Station community sidewalks is approximately $1,700,280,000. Estimated costs including construction, inspection, and administrative costs. Funding for this project will be provided under the Purple Line BiPPA CIP Project 502004. There are no properties considered to be specially benefited by the proposed improvement. Therefore, no properties are expected to be assessed. As previously discussed, several exhibits are incorporated in the public record binder for your information and consideration. The exhibits include 1. Office of Management and Budget Sidewalk Program Minor Projects P506747, Manchester Place Station Project Vicinity Maps. Number 3, Public Right-of-Way Construction Impacts. 4, Engineered Concept Plans. 5, Revised Engineered Concept Plans. 6, Montgomery County Press Release circulated and published on X, formerly Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, and Threads social media sites on July 17, 29th, and 30th, 2026, and the Washington Times newspaper on online legal advertisement published on July 22 and 29th, 2026. 7 is comments and testimony to date supporting all or portions of the proposed sidewalks. Number 8, comments and testimony to date opposing all or portion of the proposed sidewalks. 9 is comment and written testimony form submissions. 10, list of attendees to be added following this hearing. 11 is hearing transcript also to be added following this hearing. Project-related data and files can be downloaded from the project website. The files will remain available to the public until the record for this public hearing is officially closed on Monday, August 31, 2026. If the proposed sidewalks are approved, Montgomery County DOT will utilize a work order contract currently in place with the Division of Transportation Engineering to construct the sidewalks. If approved and authorized for construction, we anticipate construction during the summer and fall of 2026. The construction of all proposed sidewalks is anticipated to take approximately 15 to 20 weeks, weather permitting, if authorized as presented. As previously stated, here with us this evening is Mr. Joe Mogis, Chief of Montgomery County DOT's Division of Transportation Engineering, Mr. Juan Barrios, Field Supervisor with the Sidewalk Program, and Mr. Daniel Agos Camara, Construction Representative with the Sidewalk Program. They will be available after the testimony portion of this hearing to answer any questions regarding the construction aspects of this project. And now I turn the meeting back to Mr. Paler.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for going back and reflecting on the slides and making sure that we had proper orientation. And thank you all who are attending this meeting virtually for your patience and also for making sure that your voices were heard and notifying our presenters that the slides and the dialogue were not consistent. We will now hear testimony from those in attendance who wish to testify. If you have not signed up to testify, but decide you would like to, please click the react icon in the bottom menu bar. Then click raise hand to raise your hand. Alternatively, if you join the meeting by phone, you may dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. Once you are invited to unmute, please do so by clicking the microphone icon at the bottom left of your screen or by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Please clearly provide your name and address for the record prior to beginning your testimony. In addition, you may submit your full testimony in writing. These submissions will be fully considered along with the oral testimony heard here today. Please reserve all questions for the question and answer session following the testimony portion of this hearing. Again, we will begin with those who have signed up in advance to testify at this evening's hearing. Due to the interest in this project and the number of attendees at this hearing who wish to speak, it will be necessary to enforce a 3-minute time limit per testimony. I am requesting that all testimony longer than 3 minutes be summarized so as to comply with the time constraints. You may provide your full testimony in writing for submission to the record. And remember, these submissions will be fully considered along with the oral testimony heard here today. Again, please be sure to announce your name and property address before providing your testimony. Ms. Lori Main, would you help us out with who's set to speak?
I will. All right. First up, we have Annie Tolkien. Annie, can you unmute yourself?
Yep, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. I guess we're going in alphabetical order then for Annie first. So thanks, Lori, and thanks to the MCDOT folks who presented and put all this together. It looks like you've all taken a lot of time and effort to revise things, and I know you've taken time to come and speak with neighbors and talk through individual concerns, so thank you for that. I am a resident. I live at 8900 Bradford Road on the corner of Bradford and Plymouth, about 50 yards from the top part of the Manchester Place station, where there's going to be an elevator that goes down to the main stop. I'm also the mother of a rising fifth grader who walks to school at Oakview Elementary School. And I am the co-president of the Long Branch Business League, which represents about 60 businesses along Flower Avenue, Piney Branch, and University Boulevard too. I wanted to just take a minute to talk about the sidewalks. I'm pro sidewalk. I think that the safety and accessibility are of paramount importance, especially as we move toward the Purple Line opening. If folks who are on this call maybe remember what happened with the Silver Line in Virginia when the metro opened there, people did not have sidewalks and could not safely access the stations, and that was a really big challenge for people. So I think the proposed sidewalks here have the benefit of providing increased accessibility for everyone, including people with disabilities, and students who are walking, like my daughter, to school, and neighbors who are aging in place and maybe unable to drive. And this makes everything safer for folks to be able to travel around the neighborhood. I wanted to note a few things. Approximately 1,200 students attend the 4 Montgomery County public schools that are within the Walkshed, which is a quarter mile of the Long Branch and Manchester stations. So that includes the students at Oakview Elementary School, Highland View, New Hampshire Estates, and Rolling Terrace. And these sidewalks will make access to school safer for walkers and drivers alike. And I know that the PTAs of those 4 schools also sent a letter supporting the proposal to support those 1,200 students in having safe and accessible routes to school. The Long Branch Business League, is which I mentioned, I'm also the co-president of that. We also sent a letter supporting the sidewalk proposal to help the community members have safer, more accessible routes to the new Flower Avenue Main Street and Piney Branch and University Boulevard. So we're excited about the prospect of sidewalks. And finally, professionally, I work on disability-related issues, and 1 in 4 Americans has a disability. It's a group that anyone can join at any time, and I recently had a hip replacement, and I had to walk with my walker in the streets along Bradford Road, along Plymouth Street, and some of the other neighborhood streets, and it wasn't a good feeling, and it certainly wasn't safe. And so these sidewalks will help make things more accessible for more people. 2 specific issues: Hartwell Road between Reading and Guerin Road.
Sorry, Ms. Tolkien, could you
Sure.
wrap up, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Hartwell between Reading and Guerin Road, putting in new sidewalks there. Plymouth Street, looking at that space along Plymouth and Reading Road too, to make sure that it's accessible. And then a question for later, what's going on with the annual sidewalk program, sidewalks along Bradford Road between Plymouth and Hartwell? If someone could comment on that later, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Ms.
Annie. Next up, we will hear from Deborah Schulman.
Hello, can you hear
I
me?
can hear you, yes.
Okay, it's Schumann, by the way.
Human, I'm so
Um,
sorry.
No problem. You know what? I don't know why, but everybody sticks an extra letter in there for some reason. It's no problem. I live on at 9100 Providence. I I would like to sort of say, first of all, dispel any idea that, because I've spoken on this before, that I'm against the idea of sidewalks. I believe that it's not a question of being for or against. To me, the most important thing is looking at each individual street and neighborhood. This is a really varied neighborhood. Houses are all different sizes and shapes and ages. What works on one street for some houses doesn't work so well on other streets and other houses. I believe my street, Providence Avenue, is one of them, one that doesn't work very well on. I wanted just to mention the impact on the properties of this street, the impact on the environment, and then the impact on the infrastructure. So just brief, Providence is not a through street to anywhere. There are only 20 houses on this street. No one is using the street to get to the Purple Line. It doesn't make sense. If you wanted to get to the Purple Line, you'd walk up Oldham or Melbourne or Wyre. You're not going to be on Providence Avenue. The street's used chiefly by the people who live on it, and by it during school season, the buses going to the Highland View Elementary School at the end. It's a dead end street on both ends. So that's the impact on property. I don't know exactly because I can never see my property in any of these maps because it appears to be between two of the maps. And so I can never really quite see what's going on in front of my house and the two neighbors on either side of me. So that's one little area of frustration. I'm not really sure what's being slated, if anything, for removals or disruption of existing sidewalks or walks or steps or whatever. But in regard to the trees, I think this is a really important point. Our beautiful stately shade trees on this street, they shade our houses, they cool our houses. Taking them down will decrease our property values. It will increase our utility costs. And every time that we take down a tree and put in more concrete, we contribute to the death of this planet. Now, you may say, oh, I'm being dramatic, I'm being hyperbolic, but because it's just a few trees and a little concrete. But by now, I would hope that we learn the dangers of that way of thinking. It's like saying, I'm not going to vote because my vote doesn't count. And that's not the point. The point is that your vote or a tree and a patch of concrete multiplied exponentially has a huge impact. And I think that, that needs to be thought about. I'd also really like to know if an environmental impact study was done on this project, as I believe it's required by a Maryland statute. And if not, why not? And if so, where is it? Then lastly, the infrastructure. I don't know if the planners.
Ms. Thurman, could you wrap up, please? Thank you.
Yes, I'm wrapping up. This is my last point. I don't know if the planners are aware that there are aging gas lines underneath Providence Avenue. And in fact, the line directly in front of my house is full of micro fissures, and there is a gas leak that has been repaired and at least half a dozen times in as many years. I spoke to the foreman on one occasion, and he said the solution really is going to be to replace the gas line. So why is that not being prioritized? Isn't that more important? And the other thing is the vibrations from earth moving equipment. What's that going to do to the gas line? And I will conclude my comments. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And again, I want to remind those who wish to speak that we've enacted a 3-minute time limit, and I'm seeking to be or to provide a little latitude so that if you're in the middle of a point that you can wrap it up, even though you might slightly exceed the 3 minutes. But I'd certainly appreciate it if we wouldn't begin other segments of discussions and add to the 3 minutes. And again, as we stated previously, your written testimony counts with equal weight as the oral testimony. So if you have additional things that you'd like to speak that can't be captured in your 3-minute time frame, please put that in writing and submit it to our office. And again, those written comments will be held with equal weight. So thank you, Lori, for allowing me to add that.
Absolutely. Next, we'll hear from Ruth Chen. Ruth, can you unmute yourself?
Hi. This is Ruth Chen, 9009 Bradford Road. We generally support the sidewalk project in general, but I will echo Deborah in saying that on a case-by-case basis, the initial assessment slash impact survey for our specific block was noted as potentially highly difficult due to the grade of the street, stormwater concerns. We also have concerns about the removal of mature trees on our block, and that it was possible that our block would not be necessary given the implementation of a sidewalk addition to the parallel Eaton Road. And I know that we have some neighbors who were not able to attend tonight and have asked us to state that there are concerns about maintaining the uh, characteristics of our street, and let's see, and that implementing a sidewalk on a block that was previously deemed as potentially not necessary seems like a misuse of budget. And I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Ruth. Let's see. Next up, we'll hear from Barbara Marchwicki. Barbara, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm unmuted. Thank you, Lori. I would like to discuss the new impact of.
Could you state your full name and your address for the
Oh,
record?
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Barbara Marchwicki, 9125 Eaton Road. Okay, I would like to discuss the new impact of snow for us. It will be a financial burden. This year, Montgomery County residents, all of us, paid $292 more in property tax due to the loss of an exemption, which I am certainly proud to pay to support our community, and that was every owner is paying this. Now, for us residents receiving a 60-inch sidewalk, the extra cost potentially is, if I hire a seasonal snow contract remover, $350 to $700. Or if I choose to buy a snow blower, I need to get a two-stage or three-stage machine, as a single stage often struggles to manage heavy wet snow, and that will cost me $800 to $2,000. Now, why is this financial burden a reality? Because the American Heart Association advises caution for adults 45 and older, and even greater caution for those 65 and older from shoveling snow, and I am in the second category. Um, Heavy snowstorms resulting in 7 to 8 inches of snow increase heart attack hospitalization by 16%, and the risk from a heart attack death increases by 34% for men. The NIH reports that snow shoveling causes about 11,500 injuries per year and roughly 100 deaths. And very sadly, my beloved neighbor of 35 years died of a massive stroke shoveling snow in March 2018. To close, I do support sidewalks for safety of pedestrians and students, but 36 inches, not 60. Thank you very much for allowing me to testify.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, next we have David Carrington. Can you unmute yourself? All right, we can circle back to David. Heather McQueen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Heather McQueen. I live at 9123 Eaton Road, and I'll try to be brief so that I can give others more time. I have 2 points that are sort of revisitations of points already made. The first is that, similar to Deborah Schumann's point, I think that the plan is not taking into account street by street requirements. Like, for example, I live near Providence, and I agree with Deborah that that's a street that likely doesn't require a sidewalk. And so really taking into consideration the feelings of the residents on that street is important. Additionally, like the point that Barbara Marchwicki just made, I believe that 36-inch sidewalks meet ADA requirements and would minimize the impact on homeowners. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to hear testimony, and I also appreciate that the plan has been revisited to take into account the reduction of the green space buffer. So we really appreciate that you take the time to hear our comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, let's see, David Carrington, can you unmute yourself? Well, that was the David, that was the last person I had registered to testify. So if anybody else would like to offer testimony, you can click the react icon and then click raise hand. You can also, if you want to add notes to the chat, you can do that. Let's
We have a
see.
couple of takers.
Okay, Suzanne Ludlow.
Thank you. Suzanne Ludlow, 8718 Garin Road, face Flower Avenue Park, on a street that is a heavily pedestrian street, both to the park, to the school bus stop, and to businesses. I have submitted written comments. I will not go over those. I will say I'm strongly in favor of these sidewalks. I'm strongly in favor of 5-foot wide sidewalks. And I truly appreciate that you're including curbs on Garin Road on both sides. That's very important. I appreciate people's concerns about trees. We do need more trees. And I also believe that although shoveling snow can be a pain, I'd rather be safe and walk on my street holding a child's hand next to me and not have to walk in a little line. And so I strongly approve the proposal you have going before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Well-
Okay, next we'll hear from Joshua Landman Tolkien.
Hello, my name is Joshua Landman Tolkien. I live at 8900 Bradford Road. I just wanted to first extend my appreciation to the MC Dot staff and everyone else who's put on multiple public hearings for your responsivity to the public comments and for the efforts to make the information tonight accessible. I know a lot of effort goes into that. For a lot of the reasons stated earlier, I'm strongly supportive of the sidewalk plan. My primary concerns are the safety of my 10-year-old daughter, who also happens to be Annie Tolkien's 10-year-old daughter. But I also want to note the climate concerns. I really appreciate residents speaking up about the concern about trees and tree preservation and tree canopy. I appreciate the responsivity of MC Dot to proposals where protecting the trees is possible. I'm also very impressed by the proactive program to offer replanting. While it can be difficult or upsetting to have a tree cut down, they always say, the best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago. The next best time is tomorrow. So the ability to actually replant some of these trees. And from a climate and environmental perspective, I do believe that sidewalks are the most critical thing that the community can do to make our community walkable, accessible, and safe, giving residents the comfort and security to navigate their way to the Purple Line, as well as to all the wonderful businesses on Flower Avenue. In my day job, I work for the Sierra Club and get to spend a lot of time studying the challenging issues of transit and mobility And overwhelmingly, as the county climate plan has shown, sidewalks are a critical element to encourage pedestrian safety. It may be that your neighborhood doesn't appear to have a lot of walkers. That's often because you don't have sidewalks yet. But once there is a real significant message of safety from those sidewalks, we find study after study finds that people are responsive, walking, choosing to use the roads instead of driving on the roads. And so I wholeheartedly support the proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next we'll hear from Deborah Schumann. Deborah?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Great.
Yeah, this is Brett Roulier. I live at 9302 Ocala Street, Silver Spring. I would like to say that I also appreciate sidewalks being put in. The ADA for exterior sidewalks does recommend 5 feet, and I understand that the Montgomery County transportation recommendations are 6 feet. So I think 5 feet is a good compromise. I would also request that I'm right here near Revere, and I would hope that you would make the last connection from Revere to Melbourne, which would make a nice, probably the only sidewalk connection straight through our neighborhood, which would be much appreciated. I noticed I did ask several times that this new material, porous, flexible sidewalk material, be used in place of concrete. And I was told that the contractor said it was not in his contract and he couldn't do it. So it's much appreciated that I see it now being employed. So concrete will not be put over the roots of these large trees, and will be a great benefit to preserving them. I'd also like to remind you that if you are planting in additional trees, you might also, where necessary, employ this flexible paving by them too, which would help as they grow to a more majestic height. I also support the sidewalks on Providence, because there's a lot of people that walk in on my streets, and I'm sure this would be a great asset for the children walking to Highland View. And also, it's a great sidewalks are really great for more community interaction, supporting community interaction. And on my street and on Hamilton, they walk in the street, and the best we can do is to wave at each other. So I would strongly encourage considering sidewalks on my street, Ocala. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. All right, next we'll hear from Ellen Ogden. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello. So this is actually Neil Ogden, and I'm on Ellen's computer. She had to step away. We live at 9115 Providence Avenue, Silver Spring, Maryland. I would like to reiterate the several folks and opinions that say that we don't think that sidewalks on Providence Avenue are necessary, and we don't think they would actually increase safety. We think they would definitely destroy the streetscape as far as properties and their appearance and their functionality. Adding a 3 or 5 foot sidewalk to the very small front yards that exist today would be quite disruptive for both driveways, because you're not allowed to park in a driveway blocking a sidewalk. And so many driveways would have to be extended, and there may not be room to extend those driveways on the property. So therefore, the driveways would be non-functional anymore. So that would be adding parked cars to the street, which is already has a number of parked cars on them already, and that would increase traffic issues. Yes, we have students with their parents and without their parents that walk to and from Highland View, but we have very little traffic on Providence Avenue. As it's been stated before, Providence Avenue dead ends into Melbourne, and then it dead ends at the school. So there's no reason for anyone to drive on the street unless you're going to the school, or you're going to your house, or it's a delivery person, or it's a service person who's servicing one of the homes. Otherwise, there's never any traffic. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Neil. Next up, Deborah Schumann. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, we will go to Roger Bycroft.
Sorry, I'm confused
Oh,
because I see that the app is asking me to unmute, but I'm Krista Ridley, not Deborah Schumann, so I'm not sure how that
oh,
happened.
yeah, I'm not sure either. Mr. Bycroft, I'll call on you next. Go ahead, Kristen.
Yes, Krista Ridley, 9102 Providence Avenue. And I also want to thank you for having these hearings and also following up on our comments, in particular about removing the buffer so that we could save more trees. I agree with Neil Ogden, who just spoke, as well as Deborah Schumann regarding Providence Avenue not being a thoroughfare that requires sidewalks. I also am concerned about the environmental and sort of the historical nature of how our street looks, and also the environmental concerns regarding, the tree canopy that shades our homes, et cetera. And if we do have to have sidewalks, my understanding is that though 5 feet is recommended, 3 feet is acceptable according to the ADA. So that would reduce the amount of disruption if it had to be put in. But I do believe that Providence Avenue really isn't necessary for sidewalks because people would not be coming through here to get to the Purple Line. They would run directly into the school before they could get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, next we'll hear from Roger Bycroft. Mr. Bycroft? Mr. Bycroft, are you talking?
Oh,
Hello.
oh, Laurie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, excellent. I was on the wrong setting. My apologies.
All
Um,
good.
and thank you for your email today. I just had one comment regarding the snow removal. I'm very much in favor of sidewalks. I think they're a great addition and so forth. I'm one of those lucky people who has over 120 feet of 5 foot wide sidewalk assigned to my property. And actually, I hate to admit it, but I'm well over the age that was mentioned by the earlier participant of what the American Heart Association suggests is a risky age to be shoveling snow. Now, I was thinking, is there obviously there's practicalities, and I don't get a benefit from the sidewalk, but certainly other people do, and I'm glad that they do, but perhaps there's something that the committee could come up with to give some kind of relief, maybe in the form of a longer period of time for the snow to melt or something, instead of a rigorous snow must be removed by such and such a time, or some area that would address people in that category, particularly people who have a disproportionate amount of burden to handle. That's my comment. I don't have an exact solution, but perhaps the committee could think about that. I'm aware of what the laws are around the country with, with sidewalks and snow removal, but perhaps there's something that could be done in that category. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. All right, Deborah Schumann.
Unmute.
Oh, you were just unmuted and then you muted again.
Hello, hello.
Hello,
Oh,
yes, we can hear you.
well, I got a pop-up that says the host is not allowing me to unmute. So
Oh,
that's what happened
no.
both times. Yeah, I think that's happened on some other people who haven't responded, I suspect had the same problem.
Oh, I'm
Probably
so
wanted to
sorry.
speak, but weren't able to unmute themselves. Trying to remember what my point was now. Oh, I just wanted to mention about the snow removal. I actually happen to have a disability. I cannot shovel snow. So I just wanted to kind of make the additional point that this imposes a burden on me for a project that I did not ask for. And again, like people will say, "Oh, you can get a neighbor to help you," and again, that's not the point. Maybe I can get a neighbor to help me. Maybe I can pay someone, but I just wanted to mention that that is an additional burden. And as far as the sidewalks benefiting with people with disabilities, I am a person with disabilities, and I would rather not see sidewalks on my street. I think it's important to keep in mind when you say you're in favor or not in favor, that you may be in favor on your street in your neighborhood, but please don't, that your neighborhood and your street is different from somebody else's neighborhood and somebody else. And this problem needs to be approached not with a sledgehammer, but with a scale. It's not a one size fits all solution that's going to work. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. All right, would anyone else like to offer testimony? Oh, Ellen Ogden.
Hi, sorry, it's Neil Ogden again. So my
Great.
wife still had to step out. So I just wanted to add one more thing, and I'm sorry if I've run over 3 minutes, but one, I want to thank you for having this forum where we could interact with you. I think it's been very helpful and informative. And two, um, going along Providence Avenue, you really can't access the Purple Line station because if you go up to the school, then there's about a 20-foot drop off that has staircases. So if you are disabled in any way, you really can't travel that direction to get to the station. You'd have to go up Eaton and then down Eaton onto Wayne and then to the station. And even then, there's quite a hill on Eaton going from down to Wayne from Manchester. So just another point. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. All right, Deborah Schumann.
I don't think her hand went down from the last time.
This is Brett Roulier,
Hi.
who accessed this through Deb and Schumann. So I just wanted to add one thing also. I noticed that a lot of the streets, you're installing the sidewalk next to alongside the curb. But this is going to be a challenge when you cross the numerous driveways, because the crossing needs to be flat, and of course all the driveways are tapered as they approach the road. So is there a detail that is provided as an example of how you're going to address this conflict? I'm sure you do it
Actually,
all the
we're
time.
not taking questions yet, Brett. We're still in the testimony
Okay.
period. But we can circle back to that. Yes.
I just wanted to, I'm sure there's a detail that's available.
Yeah, there's
DOT.
design. The county has all the designs on the website, and we also have our field supervisor here with us this evening who can explain it during the question and answer session.
That's all.
All right. Next we'll hear from Elizabeth.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Warner. I live at 9124 Providence Avenue. And I agree with the other residents of Providence Avenue that while sidewalks are desirable when they're needed, the placement of sidewalks on Providence is really unnecessary due to low traffic as it's a dead end on both streets. So, in addition to the other things that have been mentioned by the other residents, I do want to add that I have concerns about stormwater runoff. This is already an issue in our neighborhood, specifically at the juncture of Providence and Melbourne, where we live, where we frequently have water build up onto various properties, not only on our property, all the neighbors that live at the end of this street. And the more concrete that we put down, the less water is absorbed into the ground and the quicker it runs off and down the hill to where a lot of our properties are. So we would appreciate considering that as well.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. Would anyone else like to offer testimony this evening? All right. Deborah Schumann.
Hi, I guess we re-registered under Deborah's name, or she sent the Zoom info. Krista Ridley again, 9102 Providence Avenue. I also wanted to reiterate the concern about the gas line that has had problems in front of our home, and hope that is investigated before any work starts to be done, especially since I'm sure it's going to be, large earth movers, et cetera, that could disturb that gas line and cause a bigger problem. So at a minimum, I would want that to be investigated before any work would be done, if the work has to be done. But again, I would oppose the sidewalks on Providence. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else?
Okay. It looks like everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity to do so. I'll give you another few seconds if you want to change your mind before we move into our next phase of question and answer. Okay, so now we'll have our question and answer session. The rules will be very similar to the previous session. Please click the react icon and then raise your hand, or press *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand to ask a question. You also may type your question into the chat box. And if we run out of time before we are able to answer all your questions, we will respond via email in the days to come. So does anyone have any questions about the project that they'd like to ask at this time?
All right. Deborah Schumann.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, this time I could unmute. Yay. I kept trying to unmute and it would, okay. Anyway, my question was, I believe an environmental impact study is required for a project of this sort. Was an environmental impact study done? And if so, where can it be obtained, accessed by?
So the county did not perform an environmental study because the federal Department of Transportation excludes sidewalk installations from that requirement because of the safety they provide. So they are categorically
Um,
excluded from the requirement.
by federal requirements. Point out that they're not excluded by the Maryland statute.
I mean, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know the Maryland statute, but we don't perform environmental studies for
Well,
sidewalk installation.
I just wanted to make that point that it is required.
Thank you. We'll
So
have
I just
somebody
kind
from
of
the team.
question that.
We'll have somebody from the team confirm that. But as Ms. Main said, the Federal Highway Administration calls this type of improvement.
Right, but we're talking about a state county
Well,
project.
I understand your point, and certainly not here to debate you. And our team will follow up with you to close that gap. But want to make sure that everyone on the call understands the requirements by which we have to comply when we're advancing a project like this. So thank you. And let's not forget, was it Alan who had the question that we told him that we were going to delay? And didn't write the question down.
I'm sorry. I honestly, I didn't either, but I do, Annie Tolkien had asked about the other Bradford Road proposal that is not part of the Purple Line. And, we just need to schedule a public hearing for that. So, I does anyone else have any questions? Let me go to the chat and see if there's questions there.
No.
Lori, there's a gentleman who asked about a detail about the driveway.
Thank you. That was the driveway details. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
that's right. Juan, can you
Well,
respond to that?
I was gonna because the drawing explains everything. I was gonna put the link on the chat. Would that work?
That would be great.
Yeah, let me do that.
Okay, we have another question from Deborah Schumann.
No.
And actually, Krista Ridley.
Krista,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's Krista.
That's fine. On my end, the chat is disabled, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But so I'm not able to do anything there. I just wanted to ask about the gas line issue and whether the company is aware of this problem and how the sidewalk project might affect it.
I could answer that. Gas lines are typically 5, usually 10 feet deep, and our sidewalk construction is only like 6 inches down. We have we call utility before we do any digging. And if there's any question or we're not sure of what's below us, we will hand dig and do test pits to verify that we don't damage the utilities below. But most of our sidewalk construction is pretty shallow.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Okay, Paul Ellis.
Good evening. Just clarifying a little bit about the Washington Gas concern. In general, and please DOT staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but in general, if Washington Gas was going to replace some of its infrastructure, like a gas main, they typically are required by the County Department of Permitting Services when they're done to replace infrastructure above that they disrupt. So part of the question earlier on this seemed to be about sort of the order of operations of the county's sidewalk project and any potential work by Washington Gas. And we're not, I'm not aware offhand of Washington Gas work that's scheduled in this area, but typically they would be required to replace anything that they disrupt above. So.
Thank you, Paul. Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, so we're getting to that moment. I'm gonna ask again, and thank you so much, Lori, for prompting all of us. Does anyone have any other questions? So I guess the Deborah Schulman pool has a question because we're not sure
All
who's going
right.
to. Yeah, please go ahead with your question. Or maybe there isn't one.
Yeah, let's try this, Deborah Schulman.
Hello. Yes, again, Krista Ridley on Providence. I had a question about the flexible material that they were talking about to go over the tree. Is there any photo of that or anything on your site so we could kind of see what they mean by that?
I don't know if we have a photo of it on our site yet, but I will send you some. Okay, so basically it looks like blacktop.
Thank you, Lori.
Uh-huh. But I will send pictures to Krista.
Does anyone else on the call have any questions regarding the project and the sidewalk proposal?
Heather McQueen.
Hi, I was just wondering if there has been any investigation of how stormwater runoff will be managed, just knowing that there already is that issue within this neighborhood. Has that been part of the study before the county decided to move forward with this project? Because I imagine some people may or may not have flood insurance, as that's a separate policy, and I could just see that causing further issues.
I could answer that question. This is Bob Gonzalez. The study really focused on pedestrian connectivity. The part where stormwater flows is what our field personnel and our engineers look at during the concept design stage. When we put in sidewalk, it's typically slope towards the roadway, away from the home. And we're very aware, we do before pictures and investigation before we do any digging. So of the, oh my gosh, how many years? 15 plus years I've been doing sidewalks. We have always made it better. The stormwater flow has been better than it was before. And it's a real concern. We understand that even before we're out there, there are some water issues. Mother Nature decides to flow at its lowest point. So when we put our sidewalks in, we try to curb that away from the home. So that is seriously reviewed before we do construction.
All right. Next we'll hear from Ed Verone.
Okay, I think I unmuted myself.
Yep.
Thank you. Just a procedure question. Um, when construction actually begins, will it be done on a sort of a block by block or area by area basis? And will the homeowners be given some kind of notice that we're going to be doing our work in the next 2 weeks or next 3 weeks so that the homeowner can do whatever they need to do to prepare for the construction? Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, before construction starts, they're going to erect no parking signs in the right of way, because if you need your vehicle on the day that the sidewalk's installed, you'll want to park on the street and not in your driveway. But they'll have the anticipated date of installation on that no parking sign. So you'll have ample notice, and that's weather permitting. So if it's off by a day or two, you'll know because you'll be able to see the work coming towards you, toward your home.
Okay.
But
And is just a follow-up on that. In terms of parking, a number of us don't have driveways in this area. If will it be done in a way that you have an opportunity to park reasonably close to your house? In other words, will it be done section by section or just all over the place, which will make
Juan,
parking difficult?
our field
Thank you.
supervisor's here. We'll let him discuss. Where's Juan?
I could answer that. We typically will build section by section. It'll be about 100 to 200 feet disturbance. We'll dig it up, put in forms, and then pour the concrete. And uh, Juan's having he's not able to unmute, but typically you have to stay off the concrete for about 24 hours, and it'll be off the road, so you could still park near it. You just can't step on it. Um, we will be in very close coordination with each resident as we go forward. So you'll have ample notice before, and we'll coordinate and make sure when it's okay to drive over it or walk over it. I think walking over it is only like 12 hours. Driving over it, you need 24.
48.
48.
48 to drive on it.
Driving on the sidewalk.
Thank you, Juan.
Okay, next we have a question from Elizabeth.
Yeah, in response to the person that was talking about the sloping of the sidewalks, while I appreciate that, we have multiple houses that their front lawn is underwater
Elizabeth,
on Melbourne.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth, this is question and answer. We're not having a debate and a back and forth on
I know
comments.
I'm responding to the
Yeah, but
response that someone gave.
that's not the purpose of this forum. I'm sorry, but if you don't have
Okay.
a specific question on the project, I'm gonna ask you to delay that.
Okay, so my question is can you please do a formal water survey to see what impacts the stormwater are going to have? And if they would like, we are happy to provide photographs and video of the rivers running down the street. So we as residents would appreciate that so that you don't put our houses underwater by adding all of this concrete to our neighborhood.
Thank you.
So this project is not funded for rainwater drainage installations. It's only funded for pedestrian safety and bicyclist safety. So we don't have a budget for us to do a study. I mean, you could contact the Drainage Assistance Program. They are the ones that perform studies of that nature and have the budget for installations if they deem necessary. So,
As far as and perhaps someone from the team can answer that at this point or later on, when we're advancing sidewalk projects such as this one, um, I, I, I believe, especially as part of the category exclusion process, we're making a statement to the federal government and they're agreeing that we're not creating or advancing environmental impacts that would include, sheet flow issues as far as water is concerned. So I believe that it's appropriate for the folk on the team at some point in time to clarify a similar position, whether it's during this forum or afterwards, so that the community can be assured that we're not putting a treatment in place that's going to advance some kind of detrimental water sheet flow onto their properties.
Okay, next we have a question from Will Lairfield.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This meeting has been really, really great. I really appreciate being able to be involved in it. The two quick questions I had were someone made a comment regarding parking your car on the sidewalk if it crosses your driveway. I thought that was interesting. I wanted to know about that. And the second question I had was a number of years ago. I live on Eaton Road. I apologize. I live near Barbara on 9111 Eaton Road. Also super into the environment. I'm the one on the street with the solar panels. So um, the second question was a number of years ago, we had really bad curbs, and they came through and they provided new curbs. This is probably 10, 15, 20 years ago. And when they were doing that, the person doing the contract had offered me the opportunity to get an apron for this really poorly built driveway that I had when I purchased the house. It's just the way it was. And I took them up on the offer, and it's great. It's fantastic. And I know several other neighbors on my street have said they would really love driveways, but they can't, they don't think they can afford the I don't know if it's the permit to break the ground or the contract. And I was wondering if when the folks came by to do the sidewalk, if everything goes through, that offer to put aprons in people's yards that ask for them is something that would happen. I mean, I already have it, so it's not for me, but I know some of my neighbors had mentioned it. Thank you very much.
Well,
Would you like me to answer that, Lori?
Yeah, so the contractors will be able to make modifications to existing driveways, or if you don't already have a driveway, you can work that out with them. The only thing is we can't just do an apron. You'd have to get an apron in a driveway. That's kind of one of the county things. If we just put an apron in, your only spot to park is on the apron and then you're on the sidewalk. So it would have to be accompanied with a full driveway as well.
Okay, next we have a question from Pam Wasserman.
Hi, this is Dan Adcock. I'm Pam Wasserman's husband. I'm at 9206 Saybrook Avenue. So currently we have off-street parking, and we can park both of our cars on that driveway. But my question is that if the sidewalk is installed, can one of the cars be on top of the sidewalk, or does that car can't be in that location? It would have to be parked on the street instead.
Yeah, no, it's illegal to park on the sidewalk.
Okay, so you would have to park you could only have one car in the driveway and one car on the street under that circumstance.
I mean, I guess I don't know how long your driveway is, but
But yeah, no,
it could be. It could. I mean, we
yeah.
try to be as accommodating as we can, but no, you cannot park on a sidewalk.
Okay, no, I just it was just a question for information. It doesn't affect how I feel about the sidewalk. But thank you for answering my question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next we have a question from Heather McQueen.
Hello, thank you again. Just hopefully a quick question. I know that when we first saw the plans for the sidewalk, this is just purely just wanting to know the information. The sidewalk was originally supposed to be installed on the other side of Eaton Road, And I don't know if we ever got a clear understanding as to why that was changed to the opposite side of the street. Is there any explanation for that?
Actually, that was an error. It was supposed to be on the east side the whole time. Does anybody else have any questions?
Okay, when that question is asked by Miss Lori Main, I interject myself and reiterate the question as we're coming to the end of the question and answer session. So please, if you do have a question on the project, take the time now before we end the session.
We have a question from Vera Smith.
Yes, this is Vera Smith. I'm at 9007 Bradford Road. And I'm just wondering, are there sidewalks going to cut into the road any, or is it strictly 5 feet into the yards?
The sidewalks will be installed in the public right of way in the yard. The only sidewalks that will venture into the roadway or take up any roadway are on Hayden Drive and Plymouth Street.
So if we have pavers or borders, is the construction team going to remove those, or we need to have things removed before
No,
they?
they'll remove them. They'll remove the pavers and put them on private property for you to reuse or whatever you want to do with them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, any more questions?
All right. Unless there are no other questions, and here's the pause. We will now conclude this hearing. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to meet with us, to share your concerns and thoughts and questions. Please be reminded that the record will be open for 4 weeks. Comments and written testimony are due by Monday, August 31st, 2026 at 5 p.m. Additional written testimony and comments may be submitted by email or via the online written testimony form located on the project website and must be received by the close of this hearing record. Ms. Main's email address, along with the link and QR code to the project website, are displayed on your screen. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening and bearing with us as we conquered those and are conquering those technical difficulties. And this public hearing is now concluded. Have a good night.